You checked the clock when you sat down, you checked your phone twice in the next 4 minutes, you are certain you have been sitting in this waiting room for at least 25 minutes. The receptionist calls your name. You glance at the clock on your way past your desk, 11 minutes have passed, and none of that gap between what you felt and what actually happened was an accident. This room is one of the most carefully studied environments in the entire service economy, and almost nothing about how it makes you feel time pass is left to chance. The foundational research here comes from David Maister, a Harvard Business School consultant whose 1985 paper, The Psychology of Waiting Lines, has been cited in over 1,500 academic works since, including a 2025 retrospective study that examined 201 peer-reviewed articles built directly on his original framework. Maister's core argument was simple and, at the time, genuinely overlooked. The actual duration of a wait matters far less to how satisfied you feel than the psychological experience of that wait. Two waits of identical length can feel completely different depending on what happens around them. His first and most cited principle is that occupied time feels shorter than unoccupied time. This is why the doctor's office hands you a clipboard of forms the moment you sit down. This is why the DMV has a television bolted to the ceiling. This is why the dentist has magazines nobody would otherwise read. None of it is filler. Every one of these small tasks is specifically engineered to convert dead time, the kind where you have nothing to do but watch the clock, into occupied time, the kind your brain processes almost completely differently. Maister's second principle is that uncertain waits feel longer than known, finite ones. This is why the number displayed above the pharmacy counter tells you your position in line, not just a spinning wheel. Knowing you are 7th, rather than simply waiting with no information at all, changes how your brain experiences the exact same number of minutes. His third principle, and one of the most consistently supported across the 40 years of research since, is that unexplained waits feel longer than explained ones. A single sentence, "The doctor is running behind with an emergency," does more to reduce your frustration than several additional minutes of silence would. And his fourth principle explains something almost everyone has felt, but rarely names. Unfair waits feel dramatically longer than equitable ones, even when the actual duration is identical. Watching someone who arrived after you get called in first does not just annoy you. Documented research shows it measurably distorts your perception of how long you have personally been waiting. Now here's the part almost nobody thinks to ask. Why would a business go to this much trouble over your subjective feelings about a delay it could not fully control anyway? For hospitals specifically, the answer is a direct financial one. Since 2012, patient satisfaction scores collected through a survey called HCAHPS have been tied directly to Medicare reimbursement under the Federal Hospital Value-Based Purchasing Program. A hospital with poor patient satisfaction scores can lose real money, up to 2% of its total Medicare payments, regardless of the actual clinical quality of care it provided. Your subjective feeling of how long you waited and how fair that wait felt is now a line item connected to a hospital's revenue. This same underlying logic scales up dramatically once you leave the waiting room entirely and step into an environment built around nothing but managed anticipation. Walt Disney World posts an estimated wait time above every ride queue. Independent tracking services that log actual wait durations across thousands of visits have found that posted times consistently run higher than reality, averaging somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 of the posted number during the day, and often half or less late in the evening. This is not a scheduling error. Disney has openly acknowledged the logic behind it in industry interviews. If you expect a 60-minute wait and it takes 40, you leave satisfied. If you expect 30 and it takes 40, you leave frustrated, even though the second wait was objectively shorter. The posted number is not a prediction. It is an anchor, set deliberately low enough below reality to guarantee you the experience of beating an expectation someone else quietly wrote for you. There is one more piece of this research worth sitting with, because it is more honest than most of what you will find written about it online. Aquariums have become a common fixture in dental and medical waiting rooms, largely on the assumption that watching fish physically calms patients down. A controlled clinical trial published in 2021 tested this directly, measuring blood pressure, heart rate, and anxiety levels in patients seated in waiting areas with and without a fully stocked aquarium. The result was not what the popular version of this story usually claims. The aquarium produced no measurable change in blood pressure, heart rate, or clinically assessed anxiety. What it did change was how patients rated the room afterward. People sitting near the aquarium consistently reported liking the space more, even though their actual physiological stress response never moved. The fish did not calm your body down. They changed how you remembered and evaluated the experience of waiting in that body. That distinction matters more than it sounds like it should, because it points at the real target of almost everything in this room. Not your actual stress level. Your retrospective judgment of the whole experience, formed after the fact, using cues that were placed there specifically to shape that judgment. This same logic runs the call center you are put on hold with, the app that shows a spinning progress wheel while quietly padding out a few extra seconds so the result feels earned, the delivery tracker that narrates your package moving through 6 granular stages instead of updating you once. None of these systems are primarily trying to make the wait shorter. They are trying to make the wait feel accounted for, explained, and fair. Because those 3 things, not raw speed, are what your memory actually grades afterward. So what do you actually do with this? You cannot personally out-argue a room engineered by people who have studied this exact response for 40 years, but you can notice the specific lever being pulled on you in the moment. When a wait feels unbearable, ask whether it is actually long or whether it is simply unexplained or unoccupied, since those 2 things are fixable by you directly. A phone, a task, a single question to the front desk about what is actually happening, and the next time a number appears on a screen promising how long something will take, remember that in more industries than you would expect, that number was never really a forecast. It was a decision made in advance about exactly how relieved you would feel the moment it turned out to be wrong. You checked the clock when you sat down, and you were certain 25 minutes had passed, but it was 11. That gap was not your imagination. It was the room doing exactly what it was built to do.